Hi, everyone. David Mann pointed out to me that the Castle Doctrine is recently in the news again, and he asked me to look at a couple of those cases and have a conversation with him today.
Well, hi there. Yes, I sent these because I thought we've talked about the Castle Doctrine in other videos, and in 1 week, in different states other than Wyoming, we've had this come up in the news where someone was, I think, thinking that they were going with their state's version of the Castle Doctrine and actually killed someone in both of these occasions. You may have read the news. Other people watching this may have read these news stories. So I was thinking, is this what is meant by this Castle Doctrine? And I think maybe some clarification is in order here.
Sure, yeah. I looked at what the two instances that you were talking about. One of them was in a state that didn't have the Castle Doctrine, and the other is in a state that does have the Castle Doctrine. Wyoming has the Castle Doctrine, and in looking at the two cases, one out of New York and one out of Missouri, I believe, there's what we know that's hit the news or what's been released to the press, but in my experience, there's always the rest of the story, and we don't know what that is yet in either one of those cases.
Right. So what we know basically is in one instance, a car with young women started to pull up a driveway, and the owner came out and shot the one of them in the car. And on the other one, a young man was up on the porch of a guy who was an elderly man, and he came out and shot him. So those were two slightly different situations, both of which, from, like you say, what we know, the person approaching the property was mistaking it for another house and wasn't inside the house. But as you say, there's always more to the story that we're not hearing. So in Wyoming, what are the exact rules on this? I think would be good to clarify.
Well, in these two sets of facts, what is going to be important is whether or not the person who was shot was unlawfully and forcibly entering or attempting to enter the person's home. Now, if that's the set of circumstances where, you can check those two boxes, then a Wyoming citizen is presumed to be in fear of death or serious bodily injury. And the law allows the person then to meet this intruder with deadly force. And so it's rooted in the Castle Doctrine that, your home is your castle. And when you're in your castle, you really can't retreat anywhere else to avoid the confrontation. And so, if this is just a black and white case where you have an unknown person that's unlawfully breaking into your house and, you're, say, caught off guard in the middle of the night, you can defend your home, yourself, and your family.
Okay, so as opposed to somebody comes up on your property from a distance that you've never heard from and never seen before, probably it's best to maybe think twice before pulling out a gun on that person, because you won't be protected by the Castle Doctrine in that case, right?
Absolutely. If it's just, someone approaching your house and you don't know the person, that doesn't mean you get to shoot and then ask questions later. No.
Yeah, so this is why it's interesting to me as a storytelling guy for court, is that the two things we just depicted, clearly crossing the threshold and trying to invade the house versus way far away at the edge of the property, those are pretty clear cut. Where the storytelling and the law and the nuance comes in is when it's somewhere in between and it's not quite as clear as that, and then you need a lawyer, a legal team, to work this out to really tell the truth. And that's where you would come in, right?
Right. We've handled these type of cases before. It's highly fact sensitive. So like I said, there's always the rest of the story that the prosecutor isn't necessarily presenting when they charge the case. And so by law, we're allowed to present that other side to a judge and potentially get the case dismissed before it ever goes to trial here in Wyoming.
And how would they get in touch with you to get this to happen for them if they need it?
We will include a link in the description where they can call, text, or chat with a member of my team anytime, day or night. Here at Just Criminal Law, we know you only get one shot at justice, so make yours count.